I'm finally getting to my June wrap-up. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm always like a week late doing my wrap-ups, and I just can't. I can't do it any earlier because I'm literally reading my whatever month books up until the last day of the month. Like usually, like if I were to plan out my books better, I would plan to finish the last book of the month on like the 27th or something so I can have some time. But I'm literally reading up until the very last day of the month. And then usually there's like work involved, so I really can't get on filming these on time, so sorry. I'm doing my June wrap up. I read 3 books this month actually, which I was thinking I was only gonna read 1, and if you're a subscriber and you watch my channel then you know why. And I usually try to calculate how many pages I read. I didn't do that yet, but I'm going to calculate them when I'm editing, and I will flash on the screen right in front of me how many pages I read this month. The bulk of those pages belong to the first book that I read this month, which was It by Stephen King. This honker of a book. It's 1,150 something pages, and I got through it. It took me about a month. I think it took me like 3.5 weeks to read this. It is unreal. It's huge. Now, I love Stephen King. I love everything that he writes. For the most part, there's some things that I'm kind of on, but I think he's a master storyteller. I give this a 5 out of 5. Not only was it a good book, but it was such an experience to read this many pages. King has a really great way of, he writes really great short stories, and he writes really great long books because he really writes more than just the story. He includes the history of all the characters, the history of whatever town that they are living in. And so it really works together dynamically to create a super rich, textured, real life feeling story. It has violence and gore and sex, and it's not for the faint of heart. For me, the scariest part of this book was never the clown. It was never Pennywise. It was never it. The scariest part in any Stephen King book is his ability to pull out the evil from everyday people. So some of the scariest and most terrifying people or things in this book weren't the clown, it were just the people in this town doing terrible things to each other that are considered behind the scenes, even though I feel like when I think of the scary things in this book, I think about the everyday people. And I think that rings true with what real life is. Real life, like the most terrible things aren't like these massive disastrous things you can't imagine. The most terrible things are what we do to each other. So it was super good. I loved it. I think it could have been like 300 pages shorter, 200 pages shorter. The history elements I kind of skipped I didn't skip, I just sort of skimmed them a little quicker to get to the action again. But I think the characters were so rich and different from each other, and I ultimately thought this was a great book. I don't know if I ever have the energy in me to read it again, maybe in a few years, but I'm so glad that I finally got this book read. The next book I don't have to show you because I actually listened to an audiobook of it, but it was By Your Side by Casey West. I can pull the cover art up if you want to see it, if you're interested. I mean, maybe you are. Hopefully there's not too much glare. That is By Your Side by Casey West. It is a young adult contemporary romance. I think I gave it a 3 out of 5. It wasn't bad. It's not really my genre, but I actually was listening to the audiobook while I was listening to it, so it kind of allowed me to take a break from some of the more intense stuff in that book and listen to like some fluffy kind of contemporary while I was like doing chores around the house or driving. I got through pretty quick. It's not a super long book. The cool concept is that it's about a girl and a guy who get stuck in a library over like a long weekend. Like there's like a holiday and they're stuck there all weekend, and they kind of are interested, and maybe they have a connection, maybe they don't. I don't want to give a lot of spoilers away, but I will say that it started out expected, and then it became very unexpected. So something big happened in the middle of the book that I was like, didn't think that that's what was going to happen in this book. Now, it was a cool kind of twist, if you want to even call it that. But then I felt like after that action happened, I feel like after that happened, that turning point, the action dropped a lot in the book, and it felt kind of like the scenes were kind of repetitive and things weren't really happening anymore. It wasn't bad. It was kind of like predictable in some ways. There was one kind of other twist. I mean, this is not a review. That's I can't talk about books that have twists and turns without telling you what they are. So this is not a very helpful review. I'm sorry, but I did like the writing, and I thought it was a nice kind of basic book that was fluffy and light and easy to read. And that's kind of what I thought about it. It was a nice way to break up a intense book. Let's put it that way. Oh, I just realized the lighting is really weird and dark. I'm really sorry. Oh, that's unfortunate. Okay, let me finish this up quickly. And I managed to read a third book, and it was The Girl with the Clock for a Heart by Peter Swanson. I gave it like a 3.75 out of 5. It's a cool, like, heist-based thriller. It's got like con men and a scheme and people that are kind of untrustworthy, and it was different from what I usually read before. I have read The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson, and I think I gave that probably a 4. So it's kind of on par with that. I really liked it. I'm always like in my head questioning heist movies and heist books, because I feel like I don't know enough about the topic to know if things would actually happen in the way that they're happening in the book. But, you know, I was able also to then kind of believe it more because I don't have the, like, experience to question if that would really happen, you know what I mean? It kind of bummed me out that at the very end there was this whole monologuing scene. I understand why it had happened, but it just still is unfortunate whenever things have to kind of be spelled out for you. But I mean, that is what it is. But there really are a lot of twists. Twists and turns are constantly happening throughout the book, so it does keep you on your toes. I read through it pretty quickly. I did like it, but unfortunately, I'm starting to already forget plot points in the book. So, I mean, whether it's not super memorable to me because I've just been reading a lot of stuff lately, and not really meditating on the books itself, or maybe just the writing was interesting in the moment, but then after I put it down, it started to kind of fall out of my head. But I will say in the moment I really did like reading it, so I definitely gave it a try. Especially if you like thrillers and, like I said, like con-based people and reliable characters. That's kind of fun sometimes to read, so. So I don't have By Your Side, but I do have another Casey West book. Oh my god, am I always gonna, in every video, drop books? Like, I really think I am. So I've got another Casey West that's probably around the same size. I'm just gonna hold up just to pretend. So that's about how much I read in the month of June. Holding them upside down again. But just pretend this is By Your Side. Actually, I think By Your Side's bigger than this, but whatever. Yeah, that book is done. That baby is finished. I am so excited. And I suppose that's it. I don't have, once again, I never put TBRs out for months, so I can't tell you what I'm going to be reading, so I don't really know. But that's what I read for the month of June. All right, I will see you guys later. Take care. Bye!